It's one of the world's fastest growing industries, and sometimes it feels, just in the blink of an eye, there's another craft brewery in your neighborhood that you've got to go and try out. Well, as much as I love drinking fresh beer, I'm going to step behind the camera on this one, and I'm going to pass the torch to our guest host, Malcolm Yates, who's known around these parts as a bit of a beer aficionado, and he's going to take you on a beer tasting journey through the sea to sky.
Howdy folks, my name is Malcolm Yates. I write a blog and bandy about on social media under the pseudonym Sea to Sky Beer Guy. As you can imagine, I love beer, I love the Sea to Sky, and I love the beer being brewed in the Sea to Sky. So why don't we take a trip down the region's breweries and I'll show and tell you why. Backcountry Brewing's been open for just over a year, and they've been firing on all cylinders ever since for an ever-increasing fan base that can't get enough of their delicious wares. John Follingsby is one of the co-owners, but he's also the brewmaster. And while he's quick to give his accolades amongst the dedicated brewing team, he's the driving force behind Backcountry's brews. Let's go inside and see what he's up to. Did you imagine, with everything happening, you know, medals at the provincial and national level, BC Beer Awards Rookie of the Year, did you imagine you'd be this far, this fast along the path?
No, not at all. I mean, we've been so busy with kind of expansion and just being, most of us are new business owners, so we're kind of still just figuring things out. So while that stuff was a pleasant surprise, it definitely wasn't. It wasn't expected or planned. I mean,
an added bonus?
It was definitely an added bonus for sure. There's so many good new breweries this year in BC that it was an honor to win, and it obviously felt great, but it was
Well, we're going to be hitting one of them later in Pemberton, but
oh, nice.
With you guys, you kind of hit on expansion, so you guys have already started expanding?
Yes, we've done one expansion so far, which was an addition of 3 large new fermenters and a bright tank. And we also just took over the space next door. Oh, perfect. So it was formerly a storage space for a bike shop, and we've now taken that over. We have plans to take over the next space as well later in the year. And then once we do that, we'll have more space to kind of play around in the barrel arena.
So you want to get into barrels?
Yeah, it's always been our plan, but we just haven't had the space really. Like we barely had enough space in here to make clean beer. Yeah. So now there's a little bit of pressure's been taken off we can move around in here a little bit. And now we have a little bit of extra space to play around with barrels.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So that's exciting. Yeah.
And so does that mean wider distribution as well?
A little bit. I mean, it seems like every time we buy a new tank, it is already kind of sold before it arrives. Yeah. So we're really kind of we really still haven't fully tapped the Lower Mainland. So it's hard to predict when that's going to happen. Right. But we're right now kind of going through a 5-year plan specifically of how we're going to expand. We have a bunch of different ideas. We could continue to go the way we're going now, which is just buying more tanks and having more volume, or we could try other options like opening tied houses or things like that. So we're playing around with a couple different strategic options, and then we're going to figure out which makes the most sense and kind of see how much money we have laying around to execute.
Well, that's super exciting for us fans. I can hardly wait to see how that shakes out. So maybe for the uninitiated, can you tell us a little bit about your Widowmaker IPA? Like where it sits at the table?
Yeah, I mean, it's our flagship kind of beer, really. It's drunk more than anything else in the brewery. It's a Northeast style IPA that have kind of come into favor over the last couple of years. And everyone's making them now. So,
but maybe not like the Widowmaker.
Yeah, I mean, everyone makes their beers a little different, for sure. Yeah. But it's kind of the concept behind it is a beer that's got a lot of hop flavor, but not a lot of hop bitterness. Right. And then there's also kind of a mouthfeel element that goes along with it as well. So we use particular yeast strains and malts to give the beer a big mouthfeel and lots of hop character, both aroma and flavor-wise. Okay. Yeah. So it basically it creates a beer that's extremely hoppy, but not extremely bitter. Right. Which in turn also makes it very approachable, which is kind of why I think it became such a popular style. Kind of IPAs of old, like the West Coast IPAs, were kind of sharply bitter.
Well, it's funny because it didn't fit into the mold of like your typical IPA when you guys opened. I mean, like you said, the Northeast IPA has been pretty popular these days. But were people maybe expecting more of the West Coast style, or?
I think like before we opened, there were breweries doing it, like Northeast IPA, so it wasn't like a new thing in BC. Right. it's definitely one of the kind of the go-to styles of beer that we make in here for sure.
Yeah.
And hopefully, yeah, like I said, we get to expand our horizons a little bit and make beers that are not hoppy, sour, or
the
stouts.
rest of your styles are so highly regarded too. Your stouts, your kettle sours, your pale, your pilsner, like, you know, you're kind of like hitting all of them. Is there one style that you're most proud of, or?
It kind of changes all the time.
Yeah.
It changes all the time. I mean, like, it'll be, if we can make some really great kind of like mixed fermentation barrel aged beers, that'll be amazing. It'll take some time for us to get those dialed in.
So that's when the barrel program comes into play.
Yeah, I'm kind of most excited about doing that stuff because I haven't really had the chance to really dive into it yet. So I'm really excited to get that going.
Yeah.
Kind of clean beer wise, like I said, it kind of changes all the time. Like we're really into kind of stouts right now. Myself and another brewer, Simon, who works over at House Sound, we went on a trip last year or this year actually, earlier in the year, to the Northeast and tried a bunch of beers, but the style of beer that we were most kind of blown away by was the stouts they were making.
Oh yeah.
Even though we went there for IPAs. So they were so far and away better than what is being made.
What was coming out of BC?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And so that was like, so in here right now, that's kind of that's our project right now, is to try and figure out how to make stouts at the caliber that we tried.
So you sort of see that as a challenge?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So we have our pilot set up firing again. Now we have enough staff.
Yeah.
So we're pretty much running stouts like every week to try and figure out.
That's awesome.
Figure out what the magic is that they've kind of captured out there. So.
Well, you guys have a ton of magic right here. John, thanks so much for giving us the time to talk. I really appreciate it.
No worries, man. Happy to. Yeah.
And so we'll be back after the break with more Sea to Sky beers on tap. Coast Mountain Brewing is located in Function Junction, Whistler's industrial neighborhood. It's the first left at the first set of lights you're going to find as you come north up Highway 99. And Kevin Winter and his wife Angie have been in Whistler for 20 years. They met here, they fell in love here, and they'd always dreamed of owning a boutique brewery to serve the town that means so much to them. So let's talk to Kevin and find out about his dream come true. Oh, hi.
Oh, hi. Good. I'm right here.
I'm right here all the time.
Did he?
Kevin, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for joining us here at Coast Mountain.
Thanks for having us. So what was the dream that you had about opening a brewery here in Whistler?
Well, like you said earlier, my wife and I are pretty much born and raised here in Whistler, and having our own business in town was something we always wanted to do. Starting as home brewers up in Pemberton there at our then house. We saw an industry that we right away knew we wanted to be a part of long term and started working towards it. Slowly that worked into what today is Coast Mountain through, of course, multiple other breweries that I worked with down around the city and coming finally back home to Whistler.
Right on. It says on your website, pardon me, that your beer's only available in town in the restaurants, pubs, and liquor stores. Yeah. I know that's changed a little bit, but has that kind of always been your business model, keep it local?
Yeah, totally. We visited some breweries down in San Diego, California, that area where we saw the beer stay close to home. Pop up garage doors, sell the pallet of beer until it's all gone. And that sort of struck a chord with us, and we said, all these other breweries are trying to go everywhere, all over the lower mainland, throughout BC, maybe into Alberta. It wasn't something we wanted to do. We're, again, being from Whistler and the hospitality scene here in Whistler, with all the pubs and restaurants available to us, we figured let's keep it small, keep it local, manageable that way, keep the stress down, produce premium beer, and really have some fun with it.
Yeah, no kidding. But so I live in Squamish. I can get Coast Mountain in Squamish.
We had this huge expansion to Squamish a little while ago, so you can now find us in the cold beer and wine stores and the BC liquor store in Squamish.
Yes.
Yeah, but
that was a big deal. We're not going any further south.
That's it. That's as far as we're going.
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah. We were inside the tasting room earlier, and I couldn't help but notice all the local art around and on the walls and stuff. Is that a big deal to Coast?
It's a big part of our vision for the whole brewery, was being a rotating art gallery where we bring in different artists every 2 months, sell the work for them. We don't take any commission or anything. We just benefit from having beautiful art on the walls. And right now we're hosting Chili Tom with a huge lineup of great artists coming forward, which also spawned our 750ml local artist series, where we allow the artists to create whatever they sort of think fits, and we throw a nice tasty beer into that bottle and go from there.
I've seen some beautiful bottles out there by some awesome local artists. It really kind of, it makes it extra special. You got a killer beer on the inside and beautiful art on the outside. So
the whole package, let's
The complete
say.
package, if you will.
Yeah, totally.
So what's coming up for you guys for the summer? Is there new beers coming out?
Yeah,
Can you
for
tell
us
us about them?
Yeah, for sure. We kind of read like an open book over here. We like to keep things pretty hoppy. Our clientele, our folks here that are so supportive of the community, really like their hops. So we got a couple of hazy beers, we got a couple of hoppy beers, and we have a lot of sours coming.
Oh, okay.
For us, that's our focus moving forward is lighter alcohol, maybe some fruit infused, nice little tart sour beers that are going to hit a lot of our taps. So we'll try and have 2 or 3 of those on at all times throughout the summer.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What about beer festivals? Are you guys pouring at any of the festivals coming up?
Yeah, for sure. VCBW was great a little while back for us. Moving forward, we have the Squamish Beer Fest, we have the Whistler Beer Festival. We're going to go down to this Clover Valley Beer Festival and kind of spread a little bit of the brand awareness around there. Out on the island for 1 or 2, and tiny little satellite events at some of the pubs, bars, restaurants, and things in the city, just to sort of suggest, hey, we're way up here in the mountains, come see us.
Come visit. So you mentioned Vancouver Craft Beer Week, VCBW. So you guys were involved in a collaboration with that. Can you talk a little bit about that one?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. The Vancouver Craft Beer Week collaboration, we were asked to brew a beer with ourselves, Coast Mountain, Backcountry Brewing, and Beer Brewing down in North Vancouver for what became a double dry hop Pilsner, released in tallboy cans and then distributed around the Lower Mainland, where we might not have a lot of brand awareness, being that we're so small and only here in Whistler.
Yeah, right.
It was really cool to be a part of that beer, and a lot of fun brewing that beer. We got together with probably, gosh, it must have been about 80 people or so that day at the brewery, and really worked hard to create that beer together.
Yeah, 80 cooks in the kitchen? That seems a little serious.
It was fun. So they gave us a ceiling of about a 7% beer, and of course, naturally, we all said, let's brew a 7% beer.
We're taking it to the ceiling!
Yeah, of course, why wouldn't you?
Well, that's awesome. So speaking of collaborations, you guys have done quite a few collaborations, White Tooth Brewing and you know, the VCBW and a couple others. Is that a fairly important piece of the puzzle for you guys?
Well, it's just fun to get together with other brewers, share some information, have a couple of beers together, and create something that is hopefully memorable. And yeah, we've done quite a few already with Fieldhouse out in Abbotsford, good friends of ours out there. We have one coming with Electric Bicycle in downtown, Steel and Oak. We're going to release one with the Whistler Beer Fest happening in September up here. So lots of stuff coming ahead that we're excited about.
Oh, Kevin, that's awesome. Yeah. Hey, thanks a lot for taking the time today to talk to us.
Hey, cheers. Thanks for coming to us at Coast Mountain. Hopefully see you guys again soon.
From the fast-growing town of Squamish through the beautiful resort town of Whistler, we find ourselves a little further up the corridor in the rural paradise that is Pemberton. The Beer Farmers are the latest Sea to Sky brewery in the Pantheon, and they have the unique distinction of being able to brew their own barley and hops right here on the farm. So I would love to talk to Will Miller and find out exactly how that's done. You're brewing on the farm here.
Yeah, that's what we do here.
So we're talking about barley, hops, the whole deal.
Yeah, basically we're pretty excited to be able to make something that's completely grown on the farm and be able to go through the full process and be able to turn that into beer. That's what attracted us to this idea in the first place.
Right.
We didn't really care about making a brewery or doing that. We were just like, what would barley from here taste like? What would that be like?
And so how long have you been growing the barley?
We've been experimenting with barley for a couple of years now. It's gone super well. I mean, when we first started it, people like in the planning department were like, we don't think you guys can pull it off. And
like no one else in the Pemberton Valley grows barley?
yeah, no one's ever really done it, and people basically told us that we were wasting our time, and we were just more like, you just leave the farming to us and we'll figure that out.
Yeah, yeah. And so you've come up with a product you're happy with the barley?
Yeah, I mean, every step of the way, it's when you're trying to do something new or that hasn't been done, people are just kind of stuck in the way things are supposed to be done. You know, when we're selling it to the maltster, they're like, oh, you know, it'll never be good enough for malting. And then we send it off and it gets, you know, great scores, great marks on everything. And then, you know, we got a little bit of pushback because we couldn't get it malted anywhere in BC.
Oh, you have to take it to Alberta? Or?
Yeah, we wound up finding a place in Alberta that would take the barley. So shipping was a hurdle, a bunch of different stuff, but the guys there were super helpful, and they're a small startup.
Oh, nice.
Maltster as well, so they're super eager to like see, you know, what's going on and try to help people out. And it's pretty interesting for us because we come from it from a sort of a rural point of view of the whole craft beer thing.
Right.
So to go to places like central Alberta, where they're all rural people too, it's like a whole different take on the craft beer thing, you know, it's coming at it from a different angle.
Yeah.
So they're excited, you know, just as people are in East Van or whatever, to have, like, this is our part of the recipe, you know, we grow grain, this is what we're good at.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
It's super fun to get involved with other people who are, you know, have a similar or a different take on craft beer.
Right, right. So we got the barley. The hops are grown here as well?
Yeah, we grow some hops here. We're focusing on mainly varieties that do well here.
Right.
We're not so worried about making beers that are true to style, like, you know, wit beer has to have this hop or pale ale has to have that hop. We kind of want to take it in the spirit of farmhouse brewing, which is about, you know, what's available locally, what tastes good, what grows well, what's in season.
I love that. This is the region. This is what the region tastes like.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we're coming from. Where Brenda, our brewer, actually, before we got into all this, she was a wine fanatic. You know, she was training. She's going to become a sommelier. She was, you know, she was traveling in France, visiting all the wine regions, and we're sitting here on our farm, like, you know, what's so different about beer, right?
Yeah. So if we can back up a bit, so when did the idea to have a brewery on the farm kind of germinate? Sorry.
It's been going on for a long time. You know, we filed trademarks in like 4 or 5 years ago. We've had this idea for a long time, and it just kind of morphs and it grows, and next thing you know, here things are way bigger than they thought they would. But you know, it all seemed pretty natural.
Yeah.
You know, and we're out here, we're farming all the time, and people are around. We have workers, and it kind of just grew out of the, you know, you got to have something good to share with people, right?
A farmhouse ale after a hard day's work.
Exactly.
And so here we have the brewery behind us, the tasting room in front. Are you guys opening tomorrow?
We might just be opening tomorrow.
So you've got some beer on tap, you're ready to rumble?
Yeah, we got some awesome beers. We're super, super pleased with how they all turned out, and you know, we're excited to see what happens.
Oh, that is fantastic. Now for the time being, people will need to come to the farm to get the beer. Are you guys planning on distributing down the road?
Yeah, so we're in you know, the local restaurants and pubs. We got a lot of strong support, you know, in Pemberton, Whistler.
Oh, nice.
People really want to, I think people really connect with what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a large sentiment especially in Whistler or dining about farm to table, and all that kind of thing, and it pairs well. And
you've got the farm to take to the table.
And it and it tells that story, right? It's a connection to the food.
That is amazing. Right on. And so, but tasting room, we can do growler fills and that sort of thing?
Yeah, tasting room, growler fills, all your standard stuff. We got a full liquor license coming in a couple weeks, so that'll be, you know, your standard pints and all of that.
So tomorrow it'd be flights? Or
flights,
4 ounce?
Flights and growlers.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds awesome. Thanks a lot for having us, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming out.
I really appreciate it. You got an amazing place here, and I can hardly wait to check it out. But good luck with the opening tomorrow.
Thanks, we're super excited.
Well, that's some of the amazing breweries we've got here in the Sea to Sky, and I couldn't be happier with what's happening here. I can hardly wait to come back when the camera's not rolling, so I can have a beer or two and enjoy the fountains of good product that we've got right here in the Sea to Sky. So until next time, I'm Malcolm Yates, your Sea to Sky beer guy for Shaw TV.